Adesanya's next fight is just going to be for fun. Now, these are his words. I normally wouldn't really care what a fighter has to say about his next fight. I mean, I'll hear it's got to make sense. It's got to be this guy. It's got to drive me forward. I'll hear all these ideas. It's got to be the money fight. I'll hear all of these ideas. But they should finish it with, I would like, I hope, I'm pushing for. I only say that because the fighter doesn't pick his next fight. It's the slightest idea who he says his next fight's going to be. It couldn't possibly be any less significant. Like when they sit down in the war room, that will never come up. They will never say, well, this guy did an interview and he says his next fight's got to be moving forward. Like that, it's just not a piece of it. Unless Israel Adesanya says it. There's nobody you can count on more to tell you what's next than Adesanya. Now, he says his next fight's going to just be for fun. This might be the first time that Izzy's not right. I mean, I'll just share for you, like Izzy can't just go out there. The way that his contracts works and the numbers that it demand, he has to fight on pay-per-view. If he doesn't have a pay-per-view mechanism, it doesn't work. I believe he has to be a main event of pay-per-view. But at some point, you're not. And one of the biggest problems why you have to put those big stars with the big paydays in the main event of pay-per-views is because they demand it and they're not willing to come down to the contract. If Izzy says it's just for fun, it sounds as though he understands. I'm no longer champion. I get it. Something else is going to have to happen as I work my way back up. But when he says just for fun, he's a colossally difficult person to match up. When you're doing rematches, or if you're fighting a guy for the third time, you guys will have a very hard time showing me examples of that were not title fights. You could do it. I know that you could do it. Broad stroke here. You'd have a hard time. When you're the champion and you have guys that make it back to number one, or at 185 pounds where you got 4 or 5 guys and the rest of them are having a really hard time breaking through. So you got the same 4 or 5 guys, and you got the same 4 or 5, and you got the same 4 or 5, but you have the same champion. You get rematches. You get the lapping of a division. You could even have number 3. It's very tough. Well, with Adesanya falling from champion to number 1, he's still in that same group of 5. Nobody new has emerged. Right? So, where are you going to put him? That's fun. Number 8, number 9? Possibly. Be very helpful if he was a guy willing to give somebody else the opportunity. It's quite literally what Sean Strickland did for Alex Pereira. Worked out for both of those guys. Both of those guys, the next fight will be for world titles. You do not have Charles Oliveira as your champion or even a main event spot if it wasn't for Tony Ferguson. So maybe Adesanya's going to do that. But that would be a stretch if you were to just bring Adesanya down and then you were to match him up collectively the way you historically do it. It's the same group of guys that he's already fought and he's even refought. It's tough. So when he says for fun, is he willing to leave the weight class? And if we're just doing a fight is for fun, it's not about contendership. It's not about proving anything. It's not about a title. And he would have used those words. If it's just about for fun, can we change the weight class? I know that that's hard to do. And they don't love to do catch weight matches. I do understand that. But there is a time and a place. And for me, that's an outdated policy as is. I like the champ-champ opportunity. I think historically you could have had a lot more guys that could have been champ-champ. They were not given an opportunity. That part of the story always gets left out. Here's the only champ-champs we've had. Well, you don't understand that guys for 2 decades before that were never given an opportunity. You couldn't leave your division. I like the idea, and I don't mind a catch weight. If it's good enough for McGregor, I mean, in all fairness, McGregor comes back, 255 pounders go and fight at 170 because the holidays were there and they didn't want to lose weight, but it was going to affect the rankings at 155. All of that's a little bit convoluted, but none of that draws or sells anyway. Like, that is no function of the marketing. That's just trapped within your mind. So I'm sharing with you, I would like that idea. Who's he got in mind? Who would be fun? And we're going to get an answer from him. He will be the one that finally tells us what fun is. But I don't think the Duplessis fight was meant to be fun. I mean, that seemed like some pretty serious business to me. Not only was it a world title, but there was a real hot grudge going on there. So if it's just for fun, I think we're removing Duplessis. If it was the loser of Paulo Costa versus Chimaev, just by example, That'd be a pretty hard night out. Nothing about that sounds like fun to me. So, is Izzy suggesting that he's going to come down on the card? Is he suggesting he'll be a co-main event or lower? Is he suggesting it will be 3 rounds? Is he suggesting the training camp? Right? You put Izzy into a 3-round fight, everything about that, by his own standard, is going to be fun. Everything about that. Not having to do those extra rounds, not having to do those extra miles. I mean, everything from the understanding that he has would change. I'm just trying to break down what fun means, right? Like, this is not a guy that speaks to us in riddles. Izzy has remained a man of the people while becoming rich and famous. But one of the reasons he's a man of the people, and there's several, but one of them is he speaks to the people and he speaks in a language that they understand. When Izzy says my next fight will be for fun, that wasn't to let you guys go guess. He doesn't know yet. He's not there. Which is why I'm saying, hey, let's come in with a few suggestions. Let's help him out. Let's push him in a certain direction. We would expect the fellow middleweights to do that. We would expect that they would learn from their king, who's been Adesanya until 3 weeks ago. We would expect that they would see what he does, which is to call for fights, and that he is now available, that you would go and call for him. But they're not gonna. So we're going to have to move first. And the opportunity is now, or Izzy will decide. Or Dan or Hunter will give him a call and help him to decide. But right now, the floor is yours. Right now, it's wide open. And I love it when a top guy gives somebody else a chance. I don't agree with Bo Nickal's ranking, just by example. I simply don't agree with it. I don't even know what he's ranked. I just know he is not in the top 5. Would that be fun? Be fun to give somebody an opportunity? I mean, I'm asking questions. I'm not here to answer them. Like, where exactly are we going to go? And if it is a top 5 guy, then that would be a contenders fight. And that would not just be for fun. That would be for contendership. And the fact that he didn't call for Sean Strickland does make it very clear it's not going to be with Sean Strickland. There is something within Israel Adesanya, and there was something about that preparation for Sean, the build-up for Sean. That wasn't Sean, right? It was Duplessis. He had his mind on something else. And that's what Izzy likes to do. He likes to be laser focused. It's why he calls somebody out that night. When he gets up the next morning, he's now got to focus. He knows when he's driving his car who he's picturing. He knows after he says his prayers at night when he's laying in bed, he knows who he's picturing. He had 4 guys in 6 weeks. 4 guys. He didn't know if it was going to be Bobby Knuckles or Duplessis. Okay, great. He finds out it's going to be Duplessis. Then he finds out it's not. Then it's going to be Sean. Then Sean gets pulled, bring in Jared. Sean comes back on, but Jared's there anyway. I mean, not only did he have 4 guys, the day before the fight, it was down to 2. The day of the fight, there was 2 in the building ready to fight him. They just put one of them in the front row, right? I mean, I'm just sharing for you. Like, it's a very different circumstance. And there was something about the buildup that he really wasn't genuinely that irritated with Sean. And he is not really genuinely that irritated with Sean now. Izzy will manufacture conflict if he needs to. That's what drives him. He puts himself in that position. Aljo Sterling's a great one. Aljo will always put himself in a position of the underdog, no matter what, whether he is or not. And I'm just offering you another example, names that you would know, because this is a very normal thing that the greats do. And as much as Izzy was trying to get angry with Sean, it's very hard to put all your focus on him when he's not the guy Duplessis is. And it's very hard when Sean gets pulled and Jared comes in, right? It's one of these things. And now even after the fact, he just doesn't have the same sour grapes. It's not like Alex Pierre, by example. This is not the guy that keeps him up at night. This is not the boogie monster in his closet. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal that Izzy lets us know the next one will be for fun. Now, we still get some time to figure out what fun means, but we know what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean a title fight, and it doesn't mean Sean Strickland, which really opens up 185 pounds as far as opportunity goes.